Adolf Hitler in English AI like translated it.
Oh, okay.
And like, I guess it's supposed to be in his voice.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst. Ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich nicht in diesen Jahren für dich
It doesn't sound like English to me.
No, me
I don't
either.
know what the fuck.
habe. German compatriots,
Oh, yeah.
National Socialists. 12 years ago, when, as the leader of the strongest party, I was entrusted by the deceased Reich President von Hindenburg with the office of Chancellor, Germany found herself faced with the same situation internally as the one that today faces it externally. The forces of economic destruction and annihilation of the Versailles dictate led to a situation that had gradually become a permanent one, namely the existence of almost 7 million unemployed, 7 million part-time workers, a destroyed farmers' class, a ruined industry, and a commerce that had become correspondingly prostrate. The German...
Okay, now, that was supposed to be translated from German to English right there?
Yeah.
Now, all this shit in English, he said in a short, in a short sentence. I was going to say, what the fuck, man?
No, I think they just showed a clip of him speaking in German.
Oh, okay, because I thought,
God damn.
I thought
Their
you know,
words
that
are like
first-
an equal
yeah, that
to a
first-
page of us.
Yeah, I was going to say that little paragraph, and he's going on in English. Oh, what the fuck? We should switch to German.
Yeah. Say shit a lot faster.
ports were nothing but ship cemeteries. The financial situation of the country threatened at any moment to lead to a collapse, not only of the state, but also of the provinces and of the communities. The decisive thing, however, was this. Behind this methodical
The Jews' fault.
Yeah.
destruction of Germany's economy, there stood the specter of Asiatic Bolshevism. It was there then, just as much as it is there today. In the years before our assumption of power, the bourgeois
Yeah,
world
Facebook.
was incapable of opposing this.
Now I wonder if they had an extra supply of natural gas or
Yeah.
extra supply of gas. You know?
Yeah.
People working in the gas industry are doing really well.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, we have all this excess gas. We're gonna hold a vote on what to do with it.
Excuse the hell out of me.
It's funny because all the the leftist socialist people, they call the people on the right Hitler, but they don't, like you said in the beginning, they're a socialist party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't get it.
No, they don't. They don't. In fact, they don't get
Effectively on a
anything.
small scale, just as it is incapable of doing so today on a large scale. Even after the collapse of 1918, this bourgeois world had failed to realize that an old world was vanished.
What's bourgeois?
Rich people.
Oh,
like,
bougie.
There's another thing, bourgeoisie. You know, a bourgeois. That's like, I mean, to my knowledge, it means kind of like the well-off people or rich people or whatever.
And a new one being born, and that there's no use in supporting and thus artificially maintaining what has been found to be decayed and rotten, but that something healthy must be substituted for it.
Something decayed and rotten. It must be all people in the oven.
Yeah.
People are gonna hate us, man.
Social structure that had become obsolete had cracked, and every attempt to maintain it was bound to fail.
I didn't know crack was from back in the day, man.
No, he was a meth head supposedly.
Oh, not only a meth head, man. I watched a special thing on him, man. They chewed him up. They had these special concoctions of all kinds of speed, man. I mean, he'd get these shots several times a day, man. I mean, it wasn't just meth and stuff. They loaded him up at all kinds of speed, man. He had a personal doctor that gave him shots all fucking day, man. It's totally insane. I'd like to find it one of these days we can watch it. I just didn't believe all the shit he was getting, man. No wonder he's fucking nuts. Then he had syphilis on top of it.
Ew.
Oh, you didn't know about that?
No.
Oh, he was in the latter stages of syphilis too. That's why he was so fucked up. Yeah, we can look that shit up later. Yeah, he had syphilis really bad too. It ate his brain out.
Different from today on a large scale, when the bourgeois states are doomed, and when only clearly defined and ideologically consolidated national communities can survive the most difficult crisis Europe has seen in many centuries. We were granted only 6 years of peace after January 30th, 1933. During these 6 years, tremendous feats were achieved, and even greater ones were planned, so many and such huge ones that they caused envy among our democratic, impotent neighbors. But this was decisive.
What's impotent?
Dick won't get hard, or you don't have the semen to impregnate somebody. It can be taken either way. But usually impotent is like somebody whose sperm isn't any good. You know, they're shooting blanks and.
Oh, so he's calling the Democratic countries pussies.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Yeah, and which is true today.
Yeah. You knew what was coming.
I mean, look at I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned, Tampon Tim,
Yeah. What if he goes into that, the transgender thing? I can tell you, 100 years from now, everyone's going to be chopping off their dicks. And they won't get syphilis like me.
Oh no, he'd have put he wouldn't have killed the Jews. He'd have put all these fucking trans people in. You put them in the fucking gas chambers, man. Kill them first.
Yeah. Or just even worse than gassing the Jews, put them in with the transgender people.
I'd say, please gas me. I can't take this shit no more.
We succeeded during these 6 years with superhuman exertions to restore the German nation militarily, that is, to imbue it with the spirit of resistance and self-assertion, rather than to equip it with the material war potential, the horrid fate that is now taking shape in the East, and that exterminates hundreds of thousands in the villages and marketplaces, in the country and in the cities, will be warded off in the end, and mastered by us, with the utmost exertion, and despite all setbacks and hard trials. But this was decisive, that we succeeded.
It wasn't only the Jews, man. He killed fucking retards. Crippled people like my old ass. He'd kill crippled people, retards. It wasn't just the Jews.
Didn't he send like letters? Like he picked all the retarded people up in a bus, saying they're going to some camp, and then just never see them
never
again.
Seen him again. Yeah. He didn't like retards, man.
During these 6 years, with superhuman exertion.
Now being autistic and retarded is fucking cool.
Yeah,
these days,
you're like a part of the out club if you're not.
Yeah, these wokies and stuff. Yeah, being retarded and that sort of thing is fucking cool now.
To restore the German nation militarily, that is, to imbue it with the spirit of resistance and self-assertion, rather than to equip it with a material war potential. The horrid fate that is now taking shape in the East, and that exterminates hundreds of thousands in the villages and marketplaces, in the country and in the cities, will be warded off in the end and mastered by us with the utmost exertion and despite all setbacks and hard trials. But if this is possible at all, it is only because a change has taken place in the German people since 1933. If Germany today were the Germany envisaged by the Versailles Treaty, Europe would long since have been swept away by the hurricane from Central Asia. It is hardly necessary to argue with those eternal blockheads who maintain that an unarmed Germany would, owing to its impotence, not have become the victim of this Jewish international world plot. Such reasoning would amount to a reversal of all laws of nature. When was a helpless goose ever not eaten by the fox because she was constitutionally incapable of harboring aggressive designs? And when has a wolf ever reformed and become a pacifist because sheep do not wear armor?
That sounds like the woke people of today, man, like they're like anti-everything,
There are still bourgeois states who earnestly believe this. That only proves how necessary it was to do away with an era that by its educational system managed to cultivate and maintain such notions, nay, even granted them political influence. The fight against this...
You don't even take a fucking breath, man. Well, that's because of he wasn't as addicted to the drugs, until later on, but it sounds like he had some kind of shit in him.
When did World War II start?
1939, I believe it was. 1939, 1940.
This is supposed to be in 1945.
Well, this was after. This was at what? Well, that was when World War II ended.
Yeah, it says 3 months before shooting
Oh,
himself.
okay, yeah. Because I was going to say it was pretty much ended in 1945. That was right before the end of the war.
Asiatic Bolshevism had been raging long before National Socialism came into power. The only reason why it had not already overrun Europe during the years 1919 to 20 was that it was then itself too weak and too poorly armed. Its attempt to eliminate Poland was not a bad...
That sounds like the way the United States is headed right now. Our military is the weakest it's ever been, man. We got these... they're in the Marine Corps. Oh, the drill sergeant hurt my feelings. He yelled at me. Oh, God, what am I going to do? My feelings are so hurt. There's a fucking guy saying, oh, my feelings are hurt. I don't know if they're trying to get a thing passed where the drill sergeants can't yell at the cadets anymore. What the fuck?
Because of its compassion for the Poland of that time, but only because of the lost battle before Warsaw. Its intention to annihilate Hungary was not discarded because they changed their minds, but because Bolshevist power could not be maintained militarily. Nor was the attempt to smash Germany given up because this achievement was not desired, but because it proved impossible to overcome the natural resistance stamina of our people. Thereupon, Judaism began systematically to undermine our nation from within, and it found its best ally in those narrow-minded bourgeoisie who would not recognize that the era of a bourgeois world is ended and will never again return, that the epoch of unbridled economic liberalism has outlived itself and can only lead to its self-destruction, and above all, that the...
Tell me that don't sound like the U.S. today. Tell me that don't sound like the United States. Getting weak and weak and weak.
Great tasks of our time can be mastered only under an authoritarian coordination of natural strength based on the law of same rights for all and thence of same duties. On the other hand, the fulfillment of the same duties must necessarily entail an equality of rights. Thus, National Socialism, in the midst of gigantic economic, social, and cultural reconstruction work, has also educationally given to the German people that armor without which no military values can be created. The power of resistance of our nation has increased so tremendously since January 30th, 1933, that it cannot be compared anymore with that of former times. But the maintaining of this inner power of resistance is by the same token the safest guarantor of final victory. If Europe today finds itself stricken with a severe illness, the stricken countries will either overcome this illness by exerting their full and utmost power of resistance, or they will succumb. Yet the convalescent and survivor overcomes the climax of such an illness only in a crisis.
He's the one who started COVID.
I wish he'd talk slower.
I know.
It's hard to kind of keep up.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He's on that speed, man. And I don't know if you ever seen a speed freak before. Like tweakers, like those tweakers in L.A. you were talking about, in the streets and shit. I mean, they rant so bad that you know it's hard to keep up with what they're saying.
A crisis that utterly weakens him, but in spite of all, it is all the more our immutable will not to shrink from anything in this battle for the salvation of our people from the most dreadful fate of all times, and unflinchingly and faithfully to obey the law of the preservation of our nation. God the Almighty has made our nation. By defending its existence, we are defending His work. The fact that this defense is fraught with incalculable misery, suffering, and hardships makes us even more attached to this nation, but it also gives us that hard will needed to fulfill our duty even in the most critical struggle. That is, not only to fulfill our duty toward the decent, noble Germans, but also our duty toward those few infamous ones who turned their backs on their people. In this fateful battle, there is therefore for us but one command. He who fights honorably can thus save his own life and the lives of his loved ones. But he who, because of cowardice or lack of character, turns his back on the nation shall inexorably die an ignominious death. That National Socialism succeeded in awakening...
He's talking about the woke people of his day.
I don't know, why would you do that mustache?
That was, and you ever hear of an actor called Charlie Chaplin? He was like
I heard the name.
well, he was famous for, like in the silent films, you know, before films had sound in them, and he had the same kind of mustache, and that was kind of big back in the 20s and the maybe late 19 or in the late teens and into the 20s. That was kind of a fad, that type of mustache. That gets on my fucking nerves so bad. It looks like you just dyed some snot that dripped out of their nose.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, their nose just run, and then they dye it.
Or like he really needs to trim his nose hairs.
Yeah. It could be nose hairs just growing. They let them nose hairs go. And that's the stupidest, one of the stupidest mustaches I ever seen in my life. And it wasn't only him. You go back into like I said, into the teens and the 1920s. There was a lot of people had those kind of mustaches. It was weird.
And strengthening this spirit in our German people is a great achievement. Only when this mighty world drama will have died away and the bells of peace are ringing will realization come of what the German people owes to this spiritual renaissance, no less than its existence in this world. Only a few months and weeks ago, Allied statesmen...
No wonder he killed himself. The woke people of his day drove him over the edge, man. He said, fuck this shit, I'm killing myself.
Outlined the German fate. Thereupon, they were warned by some newspapers to be more intelligent and rather to promise something, even though nobody intended to keep this promise later. As an inexorable National Socialist and a fighter for my people, I now wish to assure these statesmen, once and for all, that every attempt at influencing National Socialist Germany through slogans, lies and distortions presupposes a simple-mindedness unknown to the Germany of today. The fact that political activities and lies are inextricably linked in a democracy is of no consequence. Decisive is that every promise given by these statesmen to a people is today quite meaningless because they are not in a position ever to fulfill any such promise. This is as if one sheep...
Again, like I say, don't that remind you of the U.S. today?
I'm having a hard time keeping up with what the fuck he's talking
promised another
about.
sheep to protect it.
Yeah, well, every time I start to think of something to say, I get lost because you're just going so fast.
Yeah.
Maybe we slow the sound down, would understand him.
Against a tiger. I herewith repeat my prophecy. England will not only not be in a position to control Bolshevism, but her development will unavoidably evolve more and more toward the symptoms of this destructive disease. The democracies are unable to rid themselves now of the forces they summoned from the steppes of Asia. All the small European nations who capitulated confident of Allied assurances are facing complete annihilation. It is entirely uninteresting whether this fate will befall them a little earlier or later. What counts is its implacability. The Kremlin Jews are motivated only by tactical considerations. Whether in one case they act with immediate brutality or in another case with some reticence, the result will always be the same. Germany, however, shall never suffer this fate. The guarantor thereof is the victory achieved 12 years ago within our country. Whatever our enemies may plot, whatever sufferings they may inflict on our German cities, on German landscapes, and above all, on our people, all that cannot bear any comparison with the irreparable misery, the tragedy that would befall us if the plutocratic Bolshevistic conspiracy were victorious. Therefore, it is all the more necessary on this 12th anniversary of the rise to power to strengthen the heart more than ever before and to steel ourselves in the holy determination to wield the sword no matter where and under what circumstances until final victory crowns our efforts. On this day, I do not want to leave any doubt about something else. Against an entire hostile world, I once chose my road according to my inner call and strode it as an
I'm starting to get a little bit lost right now.
Yeah.
He talks so damn fast, man. They should have given him some downers before he did his
Yeah.
speech, you know?
Hey, man.
a nameless man to final success. Often they reported I was dead, and always they wished I were. But in the end, I remained victor in spite of all. My life today is with an equal exclusiveness determined by the duties incumbent on me. Combined, they are but one, to work for my people and to fight for it. Only he can relieve me of this duty who called me to it. It was in the hand of Providence to snuff me out by the bomb that exploded only 1.5 meters from me on July 20th, and thus to terminate my life's work.
I wonder if he's talking about there was a big meeting with him and like his top generals, and some of the higher up military people, generals and stuff, didn't like him. They tried. In fact, one guy took a bomb in a briefcase and left the briefcase there, and it damn near killed him. Like I said, he said 1.5 meters away from him, and but damn near, he was lucky some table or something got flipped up or something got in the way where it didn't hurt him very bad at all. But yeah, they tried to kill him, man, more than once, I believe.
That the Almighty protected me on that day, I consider a renewed affirmation of the task entrusted to me. In the years to come, I shall continue on this road, uncompromisingly safeguarding my people's interests, oblivious to all misery and danger, and filled with the holy conviction that God the Almighty will not abandon him who, during all his life, had no desire but to save his people from a fate it had never deserved, neither by virtue of its number nor by way of its importance. Therefore, I now appeal to the entire German people, and above all, to my old fellow fighters and to all the soldiers to gird themselves with a yet greater, harder spirit of resistance, until we can again, as we did before, put on the graves of the dead of this enormous struggle a wreath inscribed with the words, "And yet you were victorious." Therefore, I expect every German.
I think at the time the Allied forces, were pretty much they were in Germany at the time, and they were getting close. They were getting pretty close to Berlin and stuff at the time too. So, like I said, this is supposed to be 3 months before he killed himself. So yeah, they were Allied forces and were already in Germany, I believe, at the time.
This is just a speech trying to be like, we're not gonna stop. Like, just keep your hopes up, because
pretty much so, yeah. But deep down, I know they knew that they were done.
To do his duty to the last, and that he be willing to take upon himself every sacrifice he will be asked to make. I expect every able-bodied German to fight with the complete disregard for his personal safety. I expect the sick and the weak, or those otherwise unavailable for military duty, to work with their last strength.
He's like, all right, this is the last stretch. Yeah. Like, we're going to need every ounce we got.
No, let the retards out. Don't kill any more retards. Yeah. Don't kill any more cripples, man. We need
just
all
put
you
grenades
guys.
In their mouth and send them under to them.
The retarded can get you. What's this, Adolf? We'll just take it over over there. First, you got to take.
It's a present for that guy.
Yeah. First, you got to take the thing out. Yeah. Then there'll be a big surprise for you.
City dwellers to forge the weapons for this struggle, and I expect the farmer to supply the bread for the soldiers and workers of this struggle by imposing restrictions upon himself. I expect all women and girls to continue supporting this struggle with utmost fanaticism. In this appeal, I particularly address myself to German youth. In vowing ourselves to one another, we are entitled to stand before the Almighty and ask Him for His grace and His blessing. No people can do more than that. Everybody who can fight, fights, and that everybody who can work, works, and that they all sacrifice in common, filled with but one thought, to safeguard freedom and national honor, and thus the future of life. However grave the crisis may be at the moment, it will, despite everything, finally be mastered by our unalterable will, by our readiness for sacrifice, and by our abilities. We shall overcome this calamity too, and this fight too will not be won by Central Asia, but by Europe. And at its head will be the nation that is represented.
Why does he keep bringing up Asia?
I don't know. I trying to figure that out earlier. He was talking about Asia, and maybe I could look that up later, because I always like to learn shit, and I honestly got to say, I don't know what the deal was with Central Asia. I know the Japanese were his ally back then. I don't know if there was any other Asian countries that were behind him, but I know the Japanese were his.
Well, he's talking like Asia's a problem.
I know. That's what I don't get it. Maybe we can try to understand in a while here and see if anything else makes any sense.
In Europe against the East for 1,500 years, and shall represent it for all time. Our greater German Reich, the German nation.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of interesting. See, I wish we just lived back then and knew the context of what was going on. Like Tristan Tate said, because he's big into history, every country he goes to, if you read their history books, they're the country that won World War II.
Yeah.
You know, we think, you know, we're the ones who did it. Well, in all the other countries, they think they're the ones who did it. It's weird. So it's like, even when you're learning about history, you have no idea what kind of twists and other stuff is put in there. So it's like,
Well, just,
like I never heard about Asia in World War II besides Japan.
we gotta look that up later. I don't know what he was talking about there, there either. And
Well, they can tell us in the comments.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you guys let us know in the comments what the deal was with Central Asia.
Or if there's videos we can look up and react to.
Yeah,
about
because I never knew anything about Central Asia that affected Germany, but
Me neither.